Horizontes was a 2017 Night Cities Challenge winner that aimed to connect two underrepresented communities in Wichita, Kansas, the predominantly Latino North End and historically African American Northeast neighborhoods. Today, we are here with Theresa, Doan, a representative of the Sigma Psi Zeta sorority, for this Horizontes conversation. The Sigma Psi Zetas were one of the groups for our summer mural jam in 2018 and created a mural that is located on the No More Theater at 130 East 21st Street in the North End. Welcome, Theresa.
Yes, hello.
Would you start off by telling us a little bit about your sorority and what all they do?
Yes, so I'm part of Sigma Psi Zeta here at Wichita State. We were founded a little over 8 years ago of this year, but collectively, nationally, we've been here since 1994. Historically, we were an Asian interest organization, but have since then grown into a multicultural organization that is dedicated to community service, sisterhood, and our philanthropy overall.
Nice. So can you tell us a little bit about how your sorority got involved with the Summer Mural Jam?
Yeah, so when I joined the sorority, I held the position as community chair, and community is actually one of our 10 rays of sisterhood, which basically means we have 10 values that we try to uphold and live, and one of it being community. And as a new sister at the time, I just saw our community ray lacking, and I was like, what can I do for our organization, for my sorority, to better live out the community ray? And I just came up with this idea. It's like, I'm going to come up with a mural. We're going to do a mural. And this was a little bit before I met Armando and the Horizontes team. And at the time, my sorority was like, okay, you can do a mural, but how are you going to do all this stuff? And I started networking, reached out to local artists, and I was like, hey, I've seen some of your murals around town. Do you mind taking a phone call with me or meeting with me to give me some steps or tips in how to do a mural? Because we've never done one before. So that's kind of how we got started. I got connected with Horizontes through just networking and just trying to put our mission out there and what we stand for. And then that's how we joined the Summer Mural Jam.
Very nice. You talked about reaching out to other artists because you don't necessarily consider yourself an artist. Was anyone on your team saying, okay, I'm going to take the artistic lead, or was it all, we're going to do this together?
So I definitely have some very talented sisters who are great artists, and that would be like Tina Nguyen and Lily Nguyen. And so when I approached them with this idea, they were all for it. And then also it was more of like a collaborative effort, because when you look at the mural, it wasn't just one or two sisters who designed it. It was a whole group effort, and everyone just had their ideas, and we just made this really cool collaborative design.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and look at that. So here is not quite the finished product, but really it kind of exemplifies that collaboration. Do you know how many sisters did work on it overall?
I'm gonna butcher the number. I used to, but it was definitely around 30. No more than 30 sisters worked on it. But at the time, I think our active house was 30 or so.
Wow. And so then everyone played their part, and yeah, it just came together. Let's go ahead and look at it, the finished mural, and we'll talk about what the mural means.
Yes.
Okay, so here is the finished product. Just beautiful. Will you give us kind of the mural to text, or just talk about what the mural means and what each part of this symbolizes?
Yes. So first off, we have, you notice like the Kansas outline, and it is just a representation of, we're from Kansas, Wichita, Kansas. So we just wanted to pay an ode to being in Kansas. And then also you notice on this support with the O, it has that Wichita symbol on there, again, just to make an ode to Wichita, Kansas. And then if you notice the yellows, it's actually one of our sorority's colors. So red and yellow is our sorority colors, and gold. So we try to get gold on there. And then the red and blue and white, it's just, again, an ode to Wichita. And then if you look at the roses that wrap all around the vine of roses that through the whole mural, it's to represent our sorority as a whole. And if you actually were able to count that, you can count how many people were actually involved with the mural. I think there's about 30, if not 25, but for sure in that 30 park range. And it's just to represent all the sisters who took the time to bring this mural to life and just to pay homage to our sorority as well, because the yellow rose is also our sorority flower. And then if you look at the word each other, and then if you notice the grow has different flower colors, it's just to symbolize the different backgrounds that we all come from, and that we can still come together and bring about positivity and being a part of the community and uplifting the communities that we are in. And then, so that's the whole purpose of this mural, actually, is just to have all of us from different backgrounds. Because like I said, my sorority is historically an Asian interest sorority. And we were coming into the North Wichita area, which is predominantly a more Mexican community, Hispanic community. And so we're just trying to show that with different backgrounds, we can still come together and uplift the communities that we serve. And then if you notice on the top of support, it's supposed to resemble rays of sunshine. And that's just, again, to talk about the 10 rays of sisterhood that is very important to us in sorority and what we try to live by. And then overall, the green, to be honest, green symbolizes a color of, I think, calmness, if I remember correctly, but also like good. And then also the sisters that were really involved with the mural, green was our favorite color. So it's kind of like our little things that we got to put in there to represent the people that were super involved with the mural.
Mm-hmm. And overall, right, it just adds to the color palette. It just goes so well with the golds, with the oranges, with the blues.
Yes, it just pops. It really makes it pop.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I do love when you look at it. You can tell that there's symbolism there, right? Obviously, but then to get the backstory, to hear about the roses, to see it representing each of the sisters. And then also, right, you almost have them at different stages of growth, where you have some in full bloom and some that are coming into that bloom. And I think for the college experience, I think that's a really relevant part of the cycle as well.
This mural represents not only our support for the Wichita community as a whole, but also our growth into becoming community leaders. And that was really important to us at the time, and even still now. It's just, how can we better serve the communities that we are in? Absolutely.
What do you hope that the community does see when they pass by this? Because it is a really high traffic area. What is it that you hope that the students or just pedestrians see when they pass by this?
So initially, honestly, our main goal with the whole mural was that, like I said, it's a bright mural. It has a lot of colors. It pops at you. It's very eye-catching, attention-grabbing. And we just wanted people to feel a sense of positivity and, honestly, a sense of like acceptance, in the sense of like things will come together. You know, there are people here to support you. And if we could just catch someone who's driving by, and even though it's 5 seconds, they just feel that positive light, that the community is there for them. That's all we wanted to accomplish. Was we just really just wanted to bring some positivity in general into the city.
Yeah. When we talk about actual mural production, can you talk about that? How you got the design up onto the wall, maybe where you started and how that all went?
Okay, so step one for us was to come up with the design. And I think that took, honestly, a month or two to come together, because there was so many different options that we could have chose and what we wanted to represent. But we did a lot of sketches and doodles on what it could be. And then once we finalized on like kind of like the outline of this design, we then talked to one of our mentors. So one of our biggest mentors throughout this whole mural project, not only was it Armando, it was also Josh Lupole.
Yeah, Josh Tripoli. I mean, right, like, yeah. Unexpected difficult. Absolutely right. And that in that act, you guys are doing something that you've never done before, but it's also very outside of the realm of what you're used to doing. And you're seeing people working in different capacities. You're working on kind of those leadership skills and that teamwork collaboration. I mean, all of that is involved, as well as just the message that you're putting up there in the first place of support each other and grow together as you're
Yes.
working together, growing together, and supporting each other. I mean, it just fits so well. Well, uh, what were some of those difficulties that you ran into, if you want to be more specific?
Okay, so the thing is like when we projected it, it was sketched out perfectly. But then when we painted, we should have been more strategic in how we started painting.
Oh, yes.
And that's something that we like did not know until like we've already painted. So for example, like instead of painting from bottom up, we should probably painted top to bottom, because like paint drips if you're not careful with paint, and paint is going to drip regardless, no matter how careful you are. It's just, so that was one of the things. It's just like being strategic in how we painted things. And then also and the weird sense is like giving direction. So like even though this was a collaborative effort, there's some sisters who, you know, could only help with painting. And so they've never really seen the design before. They've seen it here and there, but not actually like see the detailed line work that goes with it. And so being able to have someone who fully understands the design and being able to give directions and doing it. And I think like, for example, those 10 rays that you see up top, I think those things were painted like 20 different times because, well, first off, it was painted the wrong yellow. And then someone painted over the white lines to distinguish between the different 10 rays. And the Kansas outline, like you would think that was easy because it's mostly a rectangle. Just outlining that was actually really difficult because, again, like if someone doesn't fully understand the design, those colors can get lost. And, you know, I think at this point we had just fixed the outlining in this picture, but if you saw some other pictures, I think the Kansas border was very disproportionate to the wall itself. So it was a hot mess process, but it took a lot. But it was also a great time, I would say, like even though with all the confusion and the chaos of trying to strategically paint, we learned a lot from it.
And this is something that many of the other murals in the Summer Mural Jam did not have to do, which was that level of collaboration. Many of our artists were single artists, right? Like they got help from the community, but not 25 to 30 people who are all having a hand and who all have different styles and different levels of expertise.
Yes.
That is a big pull.
Yes, 100%. The murals right next to us were done by single artists, and I remember being out there with some of the sisters, and we would look at them and we'd be like, they're so fast. Like, he just came here, the wall was blank, and now he's almost done. And it just speaks to their expertise in their art, and then their artistry in general. And then us coming from no experience it was really fun to learn from both of the artists and then have them help us as much as they could on top of them doing their own murals too.
Mm-hmm. And that was another big part of it too, right? Being out because it wasn't just you all doing it, right? There's also all of those other artists around at the same time doing their work. Oh.
Yes, it was a really great opportunity to meet with people outside of Wichita State. So a lot of the work that we do at that time as a sorority was only in the Wichita State area. This is probably one of the very honestly, very few times, and honestly, the first time we've stepped out of Wichita State to actually be a part of the community.
Yeah. How have your sisters talked about that or reflected on this experience since?
It's honestly broadened our horizon as to what we think community means to us as individuals, and then also as an organization as a whole. We used to just keep it very close and confined to, community is in the schools that we are in and the people that, and like other Greek organizations. But in reality, there's so much more community that myself and sisters did not realize. And it's doing this mural gave us the platform to really expand on what we want to do for the community. And it gave us actually a lot of opportunities to be more with the community. Through this mural, a lot of sisters had opportunities to be a part of boards that were be a part of community boards, as well as we got to participate in a lot of Wichita events by like being able to step and stroll just because people recognized us from this mural.
Yeah. Wow. Have you done any murals since, or right? Like I've asked others how this mural, right, fits into their larger body of work. How does this mural then fit into the larger body of work that your organization does and has done since?
So as an organization, we have not done any murals. This is since this one. And then personally myself, I have not done any murals either. But we do have two sisters named Tina Wynn and Sarah Miose, who were very instrumental in this mural process. They've actually expanded and done 2 to 3 murals within the Wichita community. One of them is being on the Barton School of Business steps. That was by Sarah Miose. And then they've also done the steps at Belmont, Sarah and Tina. And I think they have more in the process. I don't know where. But yeah, this mural, I think, really jump-started their path into this is something that I could do. And this is just kind of like what they've gotten to expand from.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very nice. It's amazing now looking at it all finished again, right? That you talked about the struggle and you don't see that in the end result in that way, right? It doesn't look unclean. It doesn't look messy. It doesn't look like it was the first time that 30 people came together and did this, right?
Yes, I'm actually very surprised at how this turns out, how it turned out, because like you said, it does look very clean. It looks like someone has done this mural before. And honestly, it looks like a single person did because it was so cohesive. But in reality, there was 30 different people touching this mural at one point in time. And it's crazy to see how cohesive it comes together. And it just really is connected and tied together.
Yeah, 100%. Would you talk about just a couple of impactful memories or memories that stick out of this process during Summer Mural Jam?
Yes. So I think one of our favorite memories, and I've heard this from a lot of other sisters who were a part of it, is that while we would paint, so many people would either drive by and be like, and what they do is just say, thank you, keep up the good work. We had people drop off water bottles for us. We had people give us Gatorade. People stop and gave us popsicles. And honestly, it was just those like little small interactions that we did throughout the week with people who would just walk by and be like, what are you guys up to? This is so cool, all this stuff. So it was really cool to be like, even though we were doing this for like the community on a large scale, but to still get those small interactions was something that we really enjoyed. And we didn't realize the impact it was going to make until, you know, we were out there painting and people were stopping by. Another favorite memory, I think, or experience that we have all gained was that it was just like in a sense of pride and accomplishment that we came together and got to bring out this beautiful artwork for our community that is home to so much of us. So yeah, this was more than we had ever anticipated. And not only do we mean by work, but just the overall impact that we gained from an organization, but also an individual standpoint.
Right. From that seed in your mind as the community outreach chair to say, maybe a mural, right? To then see what came of that was not at all, right? What was that original idea?
No, I think when I pitched this idea at our weekly meeting, I knew a lot of people kind of like gave me the weird eyes, like, is she really going to do this? Because at the time I was also a new member. So like I had just joined the organization and I'm pitching this really crazy idea because like I said, we've never thought about community in the ways we thought about it until now, like until we did this mural. And then since then it has elevated or excelled us into where we are now with the community.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I will also say another cool thing about this mural that I don't think a lot of people saw unless you were part of our organization was that we actually did a lot of sponsorship work because at the time, so they were like, yeah, you can do the mural, but who's going to pay for it? And so that was one of the things that I had to figure out personally was how am I going to pay for the supplies for this? And so a group of us got together and we started scouting Wichita businesses that would be willing to join in on our initiative with Psi Zeta as well as Horizontes. And we actually got a few businesses to actually donate. And we were able to not only cover supplies for our mural, but then we also were able to donate the rest of the proceeds into Horizontes for whatever future projects they needed. So overall, it was a great experience in being able to raise money for Horizontes as well.
Mm-hmm. And that was so appreciated, right? Like that, unexpected and so appreciated.
Yes, it speaks a lot to companies here in Wichita that want to see Wichita thrive as well.
What advice would you have for a high school student who says, wow, like maybe I want to do a mural, but it seems like a lot. I don't know if I can do that by myself.
Honestly, just do it, run with it and go with it. That's the thought I thought when I remember it so vividly. I was with sisters. We had just went and got tacos. And surprisingly, we were driving past this where our mural is now. And I was like, oh my gosh, have you guys noticed all the murals that have been popping up around Wichita, like especially in the Douglas area downtown? And they're like, yeah, it's so cool. And I was like, we should do a mural. And they thought I was crazy. But then later that night, I just kept thinking about it more. And then I'm a business student. So I graduated with a business degree. So I was like, if I want this to come to life, I have to do a presentation and an outline, and I have to pitch it like it's a business plan. And so I remember just like all the what ifs, like, oh, how am I going to pay for this, right? Or just basically all the questions that I knew that they were going to ask me. So how am I going to pay for it? How am I going to paint a mural? I personally am not an artist. I don't paint. The only artistic ability I have is being able to draw a stick figure, to be honest. So I had all these things honestly against me, but the fact that I was able to adjust those and be like, yeah, I know that we don't have these things, but we can if we do this, this, and this. And that was just all based on just doing it. So if you have this idea, know that there is going to be challenges and that you are going to have to address those challenges. But the only way to do it is just starting to do it and just to go with it and take the challenges as they come.
Yep. Yep. And that you will support each other, right? Like, and then
yes,
I just love how
happens.
The mural just keeps coming back, right? Like the support will come and the growth as well.
Yes, this quote in itself has been so instrumental in my organization, to the point where like they've hosted a conference just based off of this quote in the mural. As like, yeah, so like this literally changed us. So like I said, there will be challenges, but there will always be support along the way. And with those support, you'll always grow from those experiences.
Wow. Oh, that's beautiful. To wrap up, I've asked everyone, and I'll ask kind of in an organizational sense, the essential question of the project is, what is on your horizon? So I'm curious if you can talk about what is on the horizon for your sorority.
Oh, man. I think for us, especially for Sigma Psi Zeta, our horizon is to be an organization that further. Oh, I have to think about this. Hang on.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've been so active in the organization, but our horizon is just to be an organization that further pursues our 10 rays of sisterhood, and one of those being community. And for us, it's just to be better leaders in the community, to uplift the people that we are surrounded by, and then also to be a great example in the community for those, especially those who are trying to figure out their life, especially for the younger generations, that they can look to us for basically an example as to how we can lead a really good life with a good group of people who are ready to support you and guide you in the right direction.
Oh, that is just wonderful. Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the work that you did. I appreciate the collaboration that you brought. I appreciate that you didn't just say, I don't know how to paint a mural, it'd be fun, but I'm just so glad that you didn't leave it at that, right? Because it's just amazing. Those impacts that you don't know what they'll have and where they'll go, and just glad that you stuck with it and created such a beautiful work of art.
Yeah, it's amazing. I can't believe we did it ourselves, honestly. It's been so long since we've talked about this mural, but it was a really great experience overall.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, again, we were here talking about the Support Each Other, Grow Together mural with the Sigma Psi Zeta, the Alpha Theta chapter at Wichita State University. This was for one of our murals during the Summer Mural Jam in 2018. Again, it's located on the No More Theater at 130 East 21st Street. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.